He's in Crystal River. We've checked in with him, I don't know, 5-6 times now, and he's just given us great updates from evacuations to, whether, gas being out for some people at some stations. So Eric, some of other reporters have seen some rain. It looks a little wetter there. I see your rain jacket out. What are you seeing?
Yeah, Carolina, the rain has started to fall now, albeit not very heavy. You can tell because some of the puddles that do already exist, you can see the raindrops falling them. We moved up to slightly higher ground. We're on the second story of a building that's right at the intersection of US 19 and Highway 44. That's really one of the biggest and busiest intersections here in the Crystal River area. And here at just after 10:30, take a look over here. It is just deathly quiet out here. And I hate to use that word because obviously this could be a very dangerous storm, but I think this is exactly what it is that first responders and emergency workers would like to see at this hour. We have an approaching hurricane. They've asked everybody to hunker down, get inland, stay east of 19 if at all possible. And it looks very much to that part that is what a lot of folks are doing. Now, across the street from me there, you had asked earlier about whether or not there was gasoline available. I wanted to show people that's that Wawa station I was talking about. Usually open 24 hours. Tonight they happen to be roped off. The lights may still be on, but there's nobody home. I can assure you at 4 o'clock they sent everybody to their own home to hunker down for this storm. Let me show you a little bit of video that I shot for you just a short time ago. Wanted to give you a feeling for what it looks like along US 19 right now, not just from our vantage standpoint, but you can see there that the roadway is really very empty. And then we started to duck back into some of those neighborhoods where we told you that some people were going to try to stick it out. And you can see right there that some of those roadways are already starting to become overcome with the tide. And that's before the high tide rolls in. And that's before the storm surge rolls in. So just want to give you a feeling for what it is that people are already seeing, abnormally high tides that are just going to get more and more dangerous with that storm surge. Back out to a live picture to me if you would. I would remind you that I spoke with the sheriff from the area, Mr. Pendergrass, Mike Pendergrass, a little bit earlier this evening. He said that there are 18,000 people who live on the west side of US 19 in the Crystal River and Citrus County area. All of them are under a mandatory order to evacuate. Again, we ran into some folks, spoke with them this evening that are going to try and stick it out. Some are on the second floor, some are still on the first floor. And with a wall of water possibly coming in that could be originally 7 to 11 feet, but even down to, let's say, 5 to 9 feet, that can be dangerous if not deadly. So some people, again, are going to take that risk, take that chance. The sheriff has told them they will not come and get them once the winds start to pick up. They will not be able to rescue people until it is light, until the winds have reached back down below what would be, in essence, tropical storm strength winds. At that point, once it's light, the sheriff tells me that they are going to be out in units, that is on the ground, and also up in the helicopter. They have 3 helicopters that they are going to be flying, that they are going to be assessing up and down US 19 and back into those neighborhoods to see if there has been any issue. Of course, they're going to see what's left by any sort of storm surge that they get, but they're also going to see whether anybody's trying to signal them, he said, to let them know that they're stranded or in trouble, and then they will try to get units out to them. But again, not before that. They asked people to leave, he said. That's what they were expected to do. At this point, as the storm starts to approach this latitude, folks who have decided to stay in those areas are essentially on their own. I'm going to bring you another update as the evening rolls on here. And I spoke with, just a short time ago with one of those couples who's decided to ride it out. They fortunately are on the second floor of their complex, so that gives them a little bit of wiggle room, but still an uncomfortable feeling that they might be cut off. You'll hear from them coming up in a little bit. I'll try and bring that to you. But for now, reporting live in Citrus County, Eric Lasser, 10 Tampa Bay.
You know, Eric, it is a warning sign when you see the water there before the high tide and before the storm surge. How close to sea level are people in that area?
Oh, they're at it, right, Dave? I mean, when I say at it, you know, if you drive around certain parts of the Tampa Bay area, seawalls, right? Seawalls, like along Bayshore, if you've been downtown, anything near downtown. In the really clustered areas and the more dense areas of Tampa Bay, seawalls are generally 2, 3, maybe even 4 feet higher than the water level. I can tell you, as you saw from some of the pictures that we were able to take earlier, once you start getting north in our viewing area, and I'm talking about Pasco, Hernando, up here into Citrus County. In a lot of these neighborhoods, Tarpon Springs included, but also here where we are, in these areas, when you start to get into those residential neighborhoods, the seawalls are already at water level. So they're not really much higher than sea level to begin with. Now you're going to have a king tide with a full moon. So we've already seen images of that water peeking over seawalls and into people's lawns. That was the earlier high tide before we had the storm surge pushing into the area. It was already over people's lowered seawalls. Now you're going to have the tide rolling back in, the king tide, the full moon, and that 5 to 9 foot storm surge on top of it. The sheriff has made it clear. In his mind, there is no doubt that people are going to be inundated with water. The closer you are, obviously, to the Gulf, the greater that chance. Originally, they thought that the water was actually going to come so high that it would go over this main road, US 19 tonight. But now they have backed off of that. They think maybe it will get up to it, which would be about what we saw back in the no-name storm of 1993. And again, when Hurricane Hermine came and just barely made it over the road, not too much standing water, but just showing how far it could come in. This time they thought that it would actually go even farther over the road than that, but now they're backing off of that. They think maybe that US 19 again will be the cutoff point. But for everybody on the west side of that who was told to evacuate, there's still a really grave danger there.
Yeah, that sounds like there are an awful lot of people on the west side.
Absolutely. Eric, I'm going to ask you one more question before we let you go, and that's that some of our coastal towns, are working on their infrastructure, trying to make it more resilient when it comes to flooding. Just curious if that is the case there in that Crystal River area, or if you've seen anything major, any construction there that could really impede and make it a little bit tougher for them.
It's a really fair question, but in this area, I can tell you that we haven't seen many huge infrastructure projects. And in fact, when I spoke with the sheriff earlier tonight, he said, look, we simply don't have the budget of some of the larger counties to our south. He only has 2 high water vehicles. Think about that. Oh. Down in the Tampa Bay area and in Tampa, there's the Tampa Police Department, there's the Sheriff's Office. They have all sorts of vehicles that can get into the back areas and go to try to help people who might be stranded by higher tides. Here they have 2. Now, he says that those aren't the most deluxe vehicles, but they don't have as many people also. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they won't have to use them, but they don't have that sort of budget. So what are they relying on? Mutual aid. He said, when the call comes out and we've been asked to come down to counties and other parts of the state of Florida, when they've called upon us, we've sent deputies, we've sent equipment, now it's our turn. He said, if we start to see a surge in our area, yes, our infrastructure may be lesser. Yes, we don't have the same sort of equipment, but we are going to be asking our partner, our area, our neighboring counties to come to our aid as well. So there are, vehicles on standby, people on standby. The state has sent resources down into the area that are staged outside of here. So even given their limited resources and infrastructure to try and get that drain out of here, the water to drain out of here, they do have resources on standby that they wouldn't normally have to try and help as many people as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's why it's important to hear from people that Eric talked to, who said they regret having not evacuated from previous storms, and you don't want to be put in that position where all of a sudden you are stuck, but the window is closing rapidly here.
All right, Carolina Lead here and Dave Wagner.